Objects in the sky, we don't know exactly what they are.
Of landing a man on the moon and
Have anyone been murdered?
I have to be careful asking that question.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Your eyes is useless when your mind is blind. Truth seekers, what's going on? We got a great show for you here tonight. We're going to get real into a show what I title, It Was Never About Aliens, It Was About Us. Now, this is going to come part of Bill Cooper's, which is Beyond the Pale Horse, if you know who that is. And as we all know, there was a lot of tragic things that happened to him. And so I definitely want to not get into that, but you got his stories. You'll be able to read his stories. But there's a reason why some things happened to him. And this was one of the stories and things that I read, which actually changed a few ideas. Now, as I go into the story, as you know, that we have a way of looking at things, everything we talk about is in this triangle format where we have our overlords, the rulers, and those that are under their control, or what I call the obedience code. So if you look at and break it down, we have those overlords, which I tell you always lead back to the reptilian agenda, as well as different things of natures of demonic demons, whatever you want to call them. It goes all the way into our control systems, the rulers, which rule by a set of rules. When I call the bloodlines of the Illuminati, the original, and the playbook is then carried out by the minions as it gets down to where we are. So with that being said, that sets up the story of how we're going to hop right into this. And again, it was never about aliens. It was about us. This is based on Behold of a Pale Horse. Just a little section. Well, Bill Cooper, really, you know what? Let me just get into it. I looked at this alien abduction narrative from every single angle: government files, whistleblower testimony, and psychological case studies. And, I've been doing this a long time. As you know, I've been in 11 different TV shows about extraterrestrials, from Bigfoot 1 and 2, 3, Forbidden Knowledge, Black Knight Satellite, Ancient Aliens, History Channel, to Discovery Channel, Fox Tubi, Amazon Prime, HBO Max. And let me tell you, the more I dug into the William Cooper story, the more I realized that this was never about aliens. This was about control and psychological warfare and eugenics. And the scariest part, most of us already fell for it. And so I want you to look at this from a different angle as I get into it, because they didn't come down from the sky based on the stories and things that he talked about. They came up from these black sites underneath, wearing the mask of unknown to hide what they would consider all too human. Now, here's where this reason matters, right? So why are we talking about this? When you follow the abduction stories long enough, like I have, you stop asking, what are the aliens doing to us? Because there's no need to go down that road. And you start asking, who's using aliens as a cover for something darker? And you have to really think that. And the way I see it, we have the CIA handlers. We have the naval intelligence operatives. We got the trauma doctors from Project Ultra or MK Ultra. We got global eugenics programs buried inside all these black budgets, and media overlords who manufacture myth of contact while silencing these victims when it comes down to this. But here's a perspective most people don't think about. So let's kind of get into this a little bit. They control the imagery. They control the stories. They even control the memory fragments inside the abductee's mind. And they don't just stage the lie. They engineer belief itself. And I know you might be, what are you talking about? I'm talking about abductees report human military presence, surgical rooms, cold steel tables, and they all do the same procedures, the same trauma patterns, right? But the media says it's the grays and maybe it's zeta reticular, right? That's not disclosure. That's gaslighting when it comes down to this, because there's a lot of different intentions or nefarious things, if you want to think about it. This isn't just curiosity from the stars, right? That they want us all to believe. This is a ritualistic, trauma-based conditioning masked as a interstellar fascination. And it's not alien. And I will say that it's an elite human experimentations with what I would call a sci-fi cover, if you want to think about that for a minute. But let's dig a little deeper, because there's more to this as we go down this rabbit hole tonight. Because the worst moment was realizing that people I knew all the time were quoting alien documentaries while their own trauma systems lined up with MK Ultra survivors. And as you know, I've been studying that. I've been studying the Monarch programming, and all of this now is starting to make sense when we get around. I started questioning some of the alien narratives out there. And the moment I saw Cooper's breakdown of Project Red Light, if you never heard of that, go Google it, where they were faking UFO crashes to justify defense black budgets. They was doing it for the money when it came down to this. And I think that's something for us to look at. But at this point, I would say things got really interesting, because the way the narrative was set up, they want us to believe everything. We got movies, believe, and all that, didn't we? And we did, because I know I did and still do in some aspects, but the aliens felt cleaner, more cosmic, and less terrifying than the actual truth, when you think about it. But our big secret keepers, as you know who I talk about, is that we're abducting people using spiritual programming and psychological testing. And this is something where it gets really interesting. So here's what I learned from this first part of this. The aliens, in most cases, is a cloak when they talk about it. The real story is intergenerational trauma when it gets down to ritual programming or eugenics, if you want to think about it. And if we don't expose that, then we become subjects of their next experiments. That's plain and simple. And that's exactly how this rolls when it gets down to it. But let's look at this from a different angle. That way we keep an open mind, because your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. They're hiding, in most of these cases, the real abductors. They're hiding these black site experiments. They're hiding the surgical implants with human signatures when they do this. They're hiding the psychological conditioning programs that starts in childhood. We talk about that all the time. I talk about the programming, and that is where we're just leaning in between that and a reptilian agenda when you come to this channel. And the worst of all, the truth that isn't new, it's ancient. This stuff goes all the way back to ancient stuff and ancient civilizations, ancient knowledge, symbolism. And we're talking from Babylon to Bavaria, all the way over to Bernardino County. That's how they take this thing. And this has always been about dominating consciousness and rewriting it under a cover story that you will never question. Nobody's going to question when they say the aliens did it. And they go, aliens did it, or aliens? No. Now, I'm not saying aliens don't exist. I didn't say that at all, okay? I'm saying they have an engineered mythology that they're working on us, and it's something that we need to pay more closer to when it comes down to that. But therefore, or I should say, it gets even more surprising as we go deeper. And I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you why. Because if they built this lie, and if they use aliens to cover for more spiritual conquest and what I call the obedience code, then what else have they cloaked in what I call a fantasy realm? How did they do this, right? And what else have they made us love? And that was designed to enslave us. And I think you can answer that question for yourself. I don't even have to go down that rabbit hole when it gets down to that, and we'll do. And if there was already convinced you the lie is real, which they have, they've done it to all of us, then they don't need to abduct you, right? They don't need to do any abductions. You've already been taken before the process is happening, but yet we have all these people and things that we do when we get in it. So what I'm saying in this first quick little part of the segment 3 of what we're doing, and I'm going through this really quick tonight, is because I'd rather make a point to you as quickly as I can and get the point across than anything else, so that you know where we're coming from when we go through this. And so as I go forward in this next part of this segment, it was a real quick segment of doing this. Then we'll go deeper in how they do what I call the implants, the trauma triggers, the psychological breaks that they do. And we'll connect Cooper's revelation to modern surveillance systems tracking your thoughts before you even speak it. And people, this is transhumanism. They're already going there. But before I get into that, I want to say this now, and I go on record saying this. This isn't about disclosure. This is about deprogramming. And I'm not here to entertain the thought of it. I'm here to kind of put out a suggestional curiosity warning, for us to just kind of, we are, and I'm taking some of this from Bill Cooper, Behold the Pale Horse. And I already got a policy that I tell people all the time. If it's something that I actually read and the author, I do a background check and the author is still hanging around, but if there's something mysteriously happened to them, then I maybe know it's something that I don't want to discuss. So I package this in a certain way that you will get the point of where I'm going without indulging everything he says. So I would suggest that you go get the book, Behold the Pale Horse, within the first few chapters, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He goes really deep into this, and people think that that's one of the reasons that he's no longer around to continue book 2, part of the process, I would say. All right, so as we get into this, most people are going to call what I'm about to say, they call it contact. I call it programming, because that is something that is really happening. And this is when things took an unexpected turn, when I started looking at it with a new, different set of eyes as I went down this rabbit hole. You want to know, and a question you should be asking, you want to know how they do it, right? And maybe that's on your mind. Maybe that is exactly what you're asking. And that's what I'm going to answer, because I want you to understand, they don't need spaceships when they do this. They don't need lasers when they do this. They just need fear, repetition, and silence, right? And once they get all of that packaging done, they can then pull off the okie doke. And we already know about the fake invasions and the things that they're planning, or the holographic things that they want to pull off when they do this. And it's just so much things that it gets into when it comes down to this. But I want you to understand, this is not about abductions. It's about trauma engineering. This is about implanting memory, splitting identity, and calling it disclosure. This is what they're doing right now. And they didn't come to take you when they're doing this. They came to program you and make you forget it ever happened. And if they can do these experiments, and if they can get away with these things, these big secret keepers, then it's all part of a bigger plan of experimenting, and they can do that. And if you remember, there was a story that Stephen Greer told once at one of these things. And remember, if my memory serves me properly, there was a group of but military people out in the jungles. They ran up on a sighting where they saw a spaceship. It was a spaceship looking craft, anti-gravity and everything, but they was doing moving people around. And then the group that approached them had more sophistication, more technology, knew who they were than the military themselves, but it was disguised as a alien craft. But it wasn't. It was more of a multinational corporation, or whoever the entity was, of people that were moving these people around, if you know what I'm talking about, right? So, but here's the part that shocked me the most when I kept going deeper. And let me walk you through this point by point so that you get what I'm coming from. This is not fiction. This is what I would call a protocol, is what I would say. And it goes through a couple of things. Number one is trauma-based obedience code, is what I give it a name. How they do that, number one, is they got to fracture the psychic. They got to break the mind. They have to do this. And you're talking about sleep paralysis. You're talking about surgical tables, needles, fear, and isolation. Now, these alien abductions that we hear are carbon copies of documented trauma-based programming in MK Ultra and the Monarch projects. And reason how I know that, because I've studied this thing, and there's not too many people on the outside that's going to know more. I'm not saying I'm the only one, but more about this Monarch program than I do, because that's why I'm starting the reverse of it to get us to get ahead, right? And so that's how I started realizing the agenda was bigger than what we thought. They call it probing, but it's a ritual abuse is exactly what it is. They implanted fear. This creates what we call controllable behavior, the obedience code. Once they identify the splits, the fragment, the alters, you can insert all kinds of commands. We're talking about the butterfly. We're talking about all of these things, and you'll never remember who gave them to you. That is perfect for super soldiers or all of these things and what they're doing. But that's only half the story. That's only half the story. We're talking about implants. This equals surveillance and ritual tagging. When they're doing this, there's a lot of people came forward and gave me testimonial about they probably have been tagged and they got implants in their body and all of this stuff. This happens all the time when we get down to this. The other part, William Cooper wasn't the only one who saw it. Many abductees reported tiny objects embedded without scars. And like I said, I even got pictures of people sending them to me, but saying that they were alien abducted. And the alien was putting tags to follow people. When we think the technology would be, maybe not, they would do that, right? But what is this really about when they're tagging? Is it GPS? Probably, absolutely, sure. I was just looking at some stuff recently with David Icke, and they was talking about pretty soon we're going to have enough satellites everywhere. They're employing tens and thousands of satellite systems, creating this geofencing around the earth where they can track, see, and do anything or see about what anybody does. And eventually we're going to be able to look up and see these things like we see the star thing links when it goes across. And this is going to be a whole new look of the night stars based on all of these satellite systems sitting everywhere. And so many of them, they're blanketing the space with it now. Bio data, definitely. But spiritually, no, it's ownership. They want to own, they want to control. A tag, a mark, and a contract. These are the things that they're going to do. They're going to tag people or tag the subjects. They're going to mark them so that people know who. Remember I told you about the rituals, and we all talked about Blade, and Blade went back to the vampires, and the vampires had familiars, and the familiars all would have these different marks on their body so that other vampires who was going to drain them dry, well, no, this is the property of this person. This is the property of this person. And a familiar was somebody who worked for them, that always wanted to be a part of the system, and they would just handle favors and do whatever to get there. Now we can look at that when we talk about the Illuminatis, when I use this particular triangle to explain the overlords, the rulers, all the way down to these familiars and people and things that they say that could be in the mix of all of this, right? And so that's a great analogy to begin to look at it. So a tag, a mark, and a contract. And they're not just tracking where you are, they're tracking if the ritual works. They got to know if the system works, if they're going to keep or employ it in a more bigger, or what I would call more universal structure, I would say. Another part is we want to talk about synthetic memories, regression psy-ops. Lonnie, the show producer who used to work with me, that was always her whole tonality, that is all about psy-ops and psy-ops and psy-ops. And I would admit at the beginning, I wasn't looking at it that way. I was just kind of looking at people just going through some things in their stories, but she was hell bent on psy-ops. And now I can probably argumentatively say, hey, you was on the right track. You know what I'm saying, when it comes down to this kind of stuff. And so, those are one of the things. But they'll say things like, I remember the craft. No, maybe, I'm not saying for everyone, you remember what they implanted during the hypnosis and the trauma that they were implementing. That's another part of this thing that I think people need to truly pay attention to when it comes down. Now, this part, or I would say this next part that I'm going to get, that I've never shared before. So I'm going to say this out loud. And again, I never shared this part that I'm going to say before with anyone. And it's kind of a question of, why do all abductees describe the same room, the same grays, and the same drills? They all do. And what kind of alien diversity is that? Because we know there's 80 species out there, right? There's more than just the reptilians, which we know, and the grays. And if you go to Compazzo, I forget his name, book, he has 80 species. We know Galactic Federation. We got the tall, the darks, the cheetahs, the blue aliens, and it is just it's a lot there, right? But yet most of all of the abductees would describe the same room, the same grays, and the same drills, if though the same thing is getting them all, right? We can say that. But we can also say that these people get dismissed as crazy too for some odd reason. And then they're discredited. Then they're medicated for all of a sudden seeing something that people are saying that they're crazy about, because they get too close to the truth is the main problem. I think this is happening, and they still have the scars to prove it. That's the problem when it gets down to this. They're showing the scars, the implants and all of these things. But I also think that this isn't to, or the goal of what is happening isn't to abduct you, it's to erase who you are. It's all been in a plan from day one of how they're trying to obtain consciousness and control it. And again, to control society, because once for sure, people should know we outnumber the overlords, all day long. 5 billion people outnumbering them. But as long as they can keep it moving, they can do it. But to overwrite your soul is the main goal. And they want to do this with fear. Fear is the ultimate component. I talk about this all the time when I go into dark energy and Lucian and everything else. And hopefully, it's starting to catch on to you that this is what it's all about. And it's been about when we get down to this. But to make you forget you are a sovereign soul or individual, you control your own destiny, you got free will. All of these things is what they're trying to do. But I will say, here's the catch so that you get where I'm going with this. The worst part is once you see it, you can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. And the more I drill this down with you, you're not going to unsee this. It's going to be there all the time. And all right, it's beyond saying I'm awake, I'm woke, and all of those things. It's humongous. You start noticing how alien encounters match trauma programming step by step. Now, the people that are in our secrets area, you're going to get this from now on, as all our shows go to this, because it's one of the methods and the keystones of the stuff that's happening in our secret area of bringing all of this to light, things that we can talk about uncensored, right? But I want you to understand, everything changed when I saw the clinical trauma maps that matched alien abductions stories perfectly. Those clinical trauma maps was identical to alien abduction stories. How could that be? How is that even possible? Unless they are inwoven to one another. The idea, the system, the people that's doing it, the cover-ups, the whole 9 yards. Same body parts, same lighting, the same psychic disassociation. All of it was the same. From the MK Ultra to the alien contact abductees. Isn't that strange to you? Isn't that something that you might want to think about or ask the questions of something? In fact, maybe you may be thinking this.
Doesn't that seem strange to you?
You get what I'm saying? Maybe it does. Maybe it seems strange enough that it's a coincidence. All of this stuff. And we got to understand that something may be going on when it comes to this. Now, there is an important lesson here to keep things moving for you. And the lesson is that we wanted to believe it was interstellar. We all did. I know I did, hearing it in the beginning. and that we were special, chosen, and contacted. There's a lot of, I forget what it's called, fantasy something syndrome. It's in a book, and I read it, and they have a acronym for it. But it's a lot of people out there who can't wait and wish that they get abducted. And they're so much into this, and they want it so bad. Anything that seems a little bit mysterious becomes the connector to the fantasy of the whole thing. And then at this point, we become a more special individual. Even myself don't even talk about some of the things except for the one I saw when I was 12 sitting up in the sky. And I only told my other story maybe 10 times here and won't tell it again. But the whole point I'm saying is sometimes it is what people want. And this is what they're looking for when it comes to this. But they use that hope to make us trust our abusers when it comes down to these psy-ops and things that are happening out there, okay? But again, so what I learned from all of this is aliens don't need to be real to be effective when it comes down to this. And I'm not saying they're not, but to cover other stuff, it's like blaming them, right? I remember Miles Monroe, the late preacher that, didn't survive a plane incident years and years ago. One time he was doing a sermon and he was speaking. He was a great speaker. I loved his teachings at the time back in the day. And he just kept metaphorically talking about us blaming things. And he said one day that he could picture the devil sitting on a hill, and he said he walked up to him and he says, "What's wrong?" And the devil was just crying. He was like, "Man, they're always blaming everything on me." And I didn't really understand it then, but I just thought it was funny. But I get it now when I start going down this rabbit hole. The devil's saying anything that don't go the way it is, the devil made me do it. It's the devil. It's this. And you hear people say it all the time, instead of taking responsibility to the scenario. And I'm equating that to, it is real easy for them to put it out there with the altars, the projection, the mind control, that it was an alien abduction that took this individual that studied, which possibly could mean the whole thing, that MK Ultra, Monarch, all of this stuff is still alive. Possibly, allegedly. It could be. I don't know. But why wouldn't it be? Why would it go away? And it's probably so more advanced than it was back in the 70s when we hear about it. Way more advanced. And now it's probably technologically advanced when it comes down to this. Just a point. But also at this point, you won't believe what else I discovered going down this rabbit hole. I discovered that they have digitized the ritual. And this is how I said they move forward technologically now. Abductions became sleep paralysis, implants became wearables now. These guys are way good now. Voice of God tech has become AI assistants now. People hearing the voices and all this stuff. The obedience code has become an algorithmic behavior shaping. These people are now way up in it. And again, if I go back to you and give you a visual structure, it will look something like this. You have your overlords, you got your rulers, what's under control, and I break it down from these people at the top. You get the picture. Then you got the systems, the big secret keepers, the Illuminati, the Masonic stuff that's out there in the ritual stuff, and then it gets all the way back down to the ground level, and then you see all of these things. And so this stuff is very, very doable and in full effect every single day when it comes down to this. And I truly believe you're not safe just because the ship never landed. We're still in the abduction zone. They just got Wi-Fi now. They just got Wi-Fi. They're doing this a lot better. They're good at what they do. And just like Dr. Strange just said, we're not free-range humans like the rest. And I think that was the whole biggest thing that people need to understand, is that make people think that they were free. Now, at this point, you might be wondering why all of this matters. Well, this isn't about beings from space. If now you get what Bill Cooper was doing, why he probably got into the trouble that he got into in the discovery that he made. This is about ritual trauma, state sponsor erasure of your memories all the time, and psychotic or psychic enslavement, I would say, sold to the public as a cosmic mystery. What better way to hide all of this and blame it on the aliens? Like I said, I'm not saying aliens don't exist. Ooh, that is not what I said. But if you want the perfect cover to do exactly what you want to do and put the people back out there that you have done it to test everything, why wouldn't it be the best cover on the planet, our universe, to blame it on the cosmic visitors and saying they're doing it? And I'm sure they're watching and saying, man, that was not me. I did not do it. You know, I wasn't even there. How can I come out and tell people, stop blaming us for that? Right? I'm just saying. And if you laughed it off until now, good. I want you to be laughing about it because I think it's funny, not to the victims, but to the whole system, for us to be looking the wrong direction when we should be looking at it. And that means that the programming actually worked. And I'm here to burn it out of your skulls as the symbolizer, as me doing what I'm doing. I found my cubby hole of conversation and topics and what I want to do because I think it's important. But it's still my DNA, I will say, still is alien stuff. And so I'm not going anywhere from talking about that. But I will say there's one more twist that I want to kind of share with you as we go into the final segment. And I want to tell you about what they're really hiding, you know, that and they are. And I want to talk about the occult side of the alien lie as we get into it. I want to also discuss the spiritual contracts that are embedded in this deception that they have done. And of course, the next phase, what I'm calling the obedience code that they have already launched. And this isn't about flying saucers. This is about the soul. And let that resonate with you as we get ready to go further into this conversation tonight and do what we're doing. In the meantime, I'll just give a quick overview of what is happening out here in the future, which we have, once again, the book release that's coming out. It's on pre-release right now, Forbidden Knowledge. Go check it out. The link is in the description. Pre-order this book so we will reach a bestseller when it's time, and pretty much. And if you're talking about the Conscious Awards, you can go ahead and text this my friend, my sister here. She's in the podcast category, which I won last year. I am now in the authors category, so you can kind of vote there and pretty much, and then of course get your tickets when we go down there. Real quickly, so that you know, truth versus authority. This is how we roll, man. We seek to know, and we also understand that the world wants you to obey. They don't want you to seek. They want you to be blind because they don't want you to see. They want you to be ignorant because they don't want you to know. But those who seek, see, and know break free, and that's who we are. So let's get into what I call the alien theater was always a ritual, and the soul is the real target. And like I said, there is a twist to this that most people missed that I'm going to go into. You've seen the ships. You've heard the testimonials. You watch the expert talk about disclosure like it's the future of humanity all the time. I've always said it. The rule of disclosure or the game will never go away. They're just going to change the rules. And I'm going to preach it to the end of time. We are sitting here every day watching congressional hearings and bringing congressmen on our channels, and they're telling us that they're seeking and trying to get the truth. And they have taken oath to the United States flag, which is right here behind me. All of them have. But yet we got these people parading around saying they're searching for the truth. They want the truth. The American people want to know. And there is a clause, a contract that they signed that if someone walks them into the other room and pull out this contract and say, this is national security, what do you think come first? The allegiance to us or to them or to their own, who they're a part of, who they're taking an oath, and they're all on the same team. So while we're sitting here being paraded around, that is not the deal. So I'm saying to you, we're looking at disclosure like it's the future of humanity. The game is never going away. And okay, and let me be more explicit when I say this. Picture 10 doors of secret alien technology, but yet we are aware of 3 doors. Okay, we got FOIA Acts and Freedom of Information Act that we can say we want to know what's behind door 1, 2, 3 because we know this exists. But do you think they're going to say, oh, you missed it? Behind 4 through 7 and 10 is some more insidious stuff that you don't know, but we will gladly open the doors and show you? That's disclosure. That's transparency. That ain't the stuff that they're going to reveal that we already know, which is probably decades and centuries probably behind in technology. It just slipped out because there's no new use to keeping it under control. But what if I told you disclosure is the final distraction? Because what they're hiding isn't the existence of aliens. It's the ritual architect of the lie. And the real war is for our souls. That's what it's all about. That's what it's for. And so I have to ask, if you're still with me, then this next part is going to blow your mind as we go deeper. They're hiding the true purpose of the alien narrative to prepare the world, and hear me out, for a mass spiritual surrender under the illusion of enlightenment. You get, because the plan is this: the visitors aren't cosmic, but they're going to do this thing. There are ritual archetypes designed to replace God, to erase spiritual sovereignty, and to open a new psychological contract. They want this. They want this. You understand where I'm coming from? They want this, and they're going to do everything they can to get it. And they already been trying to do it since we were put on earth and born and came through the canal and the whatever, right? But here's what they don't want you to know. Alien abduction is a modern ritual initiation, plain and simple. The abduction is the isolation phase. I want you to know the keys to this. The craft is the temple. The procedures is the sacrifice. And the returns is the reintegration as the chosen. That is the blueprint. Go look it up for yourself. Go pay attention closely to it, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. And like I said before, I'm not saying that the aliens don't exist. I'm not saying that they haven't done some things either. But I'm saying that it is a perfect scenario if you're going to try to do a few things that you can blame it on the cosmic and everything else and put this thing in perspective and let it go down. We'll see how long this video stays up. This obedience code is mythicism, if I want to pronounce that right. You got it. And again, if I mispronounce something, you know I got a virtual grammar box over here and a virtual letter box over here. It's unlimited letters. You can respell anything I misspell, and you can put the pronunciation to anything I mispronounce, and then let it come into your mind and consciousness, because I guarantee you, if you can correct me, then you understood what I said. How about that? If you can correct what I was saying, then you understood what I was saying, and there's no need to correct me. Just move on with it. Genetic manipulation, eugenics 2.0. The hybrid agenda isn't about aliens mixing with us. It's about engineering obedience into the DNA. Some of us has talked about the worship DNA, the worship gene, and all of this, right? So why wouldn't they want to do it if the aliens was doing it in the beginning? Why wouldn't the controllers, why wouldn't the people in charge of this system would want to do it as well? It's about engineering obedience into the DNA is what I want to say again to put this in perspective. It's about reducing the mass under the disguise of evolution. We already know what's going on there, Cooper warned that abductions was being used to harvest genetic material, but never asked. So what is their end game? And there's an answer to that. I'm glad you asked. Roderick, yeah, what's the end game? A programmable human soul, transhumanism, period. A spiritual neutered class of people. Let's just cut them off from spirituality, because that's the breakthrough. That's where they're going to get past this thing. A biometric slave that loves its leash. You know, people want to be controlled. People want to be seduced. Put the handcuffs on them. Tie me to the bed. You know what I'm saying? People want to be controlled. They just do. But just wait until you hear how this wraps up as we coming down toward the pipeline here. We're talking about an alien messiah, the final deception. Remember, it's already been talking about this. They're prepping the world for a new savior. Rome, Vatican, all of them have said it. Come on now. I'm not just, you got to get where I'm going, but not Christ, and not the truth is what they're talking about, but a digital interstellar post-human God is where they're working on. A soul assimilation, and it's going to have a smile because they can put it projection in our minds. It will be logical, of course, peaceful. They're going to make it feel unifying. It would offer power. It's going to offer healing, and it's going to offer purpose. And when we accept it, we sign the final contract. And they won't take your mind by force. They'll offer it under enlightenment and let you surrender it willingly. No different that they did when we had the 9/11 atrocities that went to those towers. People surrendered everything with the Patriot Act. They was like, okay, fine, you do whatever you want. She just protect us. And then read the fine print. But it also, we're going to watch you, not them. We're going to watch you. We're going to watch what you do. We're going to hear what you say. We're going to watch what you buy. We're going to watch where you go. We're going to watch what you talk about on your phone. We're going to listen to your phone. We're going to track everything you say, everything you like, everything you push, everything. We're going to watch you. Oh, but okay, you want that piece. You want that piece though, right? You want that protection. Yeah. Oh, and the $600. Oh, yeah. You sign here, sign. Checkmate. Ladies and gentlemen, is why you see this at the bottom of this part. The checkerboards don't play. That's part of the altar. That's part of the Illuminati stuff that they do. Maybe that was a little strong for you, and maybe it was. But there's still one piece to this story. The lie isn't just fading. It's evolving. It's scaling. And they will use everything they built to take it global. And I'm talking about AI-generated aliens for mass contact psy-ops. We've been hearing about this from a long time, and I think it's going to happen someday. Augmented reality experiences to sell belief. They already got people geared. Does it work? Put on these headsets, Oculus, and it's a whole nother world. Brain-computer interfaces to download revelations. They're already done that. They've already linked computer to consciousness already. They're past that. They're past that point. Unfunded spiritual initiatives to globalize obedience. You already see it now in real time. How many programs are being cut out right now? How many less funding being shaped as fat within our government? People losing critical infrastructures that we were looking at, and it was all, some of them was based on spiritual initiatives. They taken all that away, defunding all of some of these things to get global obedience. And this is when I think the being is going to show up. It's going to be bright. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be benevolent. Woo, woo. And know this, it's going to be the final mask of the same bloodline systems that right here, that just finding another way, these original bloodlines, which goes all the way back up to these archons, they just changing their playbook to meet technology. And this is one of the things they do. And they're already seeding the stories. They already built the tech. They just need our permission. They just need us to say, okay, let's do it. Y'all go ahead. Let this guy do it. But it gets even more surprising. This is the same word magic that they're repeated again and again. In Babylon, it was the gods from the sky. You remember? Go back to your ancient history. In Rome, it was Caesar as God. You remember? In Hollywood, it's the savior from another planet. Remember, we already seen the movie, the man from whatever, the guy, the brother that played it. What was he supposed to do? Come in, save? See, the stuff is already happening. It's the same lie with different interface in how they're doing it. And at this point, you won't believe what else I discovered, right? Is there more? Absolutely. The scariest moment wasn't me hearing Cooper say the lie was fake. It was realizing that the whole world wanted to be real. We wanted to be the aliens. Why? Mm-hmm. No, the salvation never came from out there. It comes from inside the war within us. This is why we are consciousness awareness in this experience. We're living this experiences, and they know that they can alter that. We're living that, and they know. And this part is crucial. So pay close attention to what I'm about to say here. They're going to offer us peace. They're going to come in peace. But it's going to, again, this is going to be all made up. They're going to offer us contact. Remember the Pope, the Vatican, all that. They're already saying what they're going to say if aliens show up. Remember, they already called in a few years ago all these spiritual leaders from all over the world to shape the new story. They're going to offer us meaning, but they're going to want one thing in return, and it's going to be compliance. Because without compliance, they can't rule. They can't do the things that they do. Now, this is an important lesson here. So what I also learned was that the alien story was never about being from the sky. I'm talking about the alien story. It was about building a new religion engineered in labs, sold by Hollywood, blessed by the science, and also powered by the trauma. They have a perfect plan. But before we finish here, one last thing I want you kind of to consider. If you fall for this, you just don't lose the freedom. Remember, that's the one thing they don't want us to keep. But we're going to lose our spirits if we fall for it. But we're not, right? We're not going to do that. Your bloodline, yes. Your history, your authority as divine being created in the truth. They want that. You have the authority as a divine being that was created in truth. They want that. We're not giving that up. We'll fight until we win, not to the end. There's no ending. We're going to fight till we win, or we just got to bag them off because they're going to win. They're going to get some things. They're going to get some objectives and people and things. They're going to get some done. Okay. The details change everything. You want to resist? Yeah. Then stop seeking disclosure and start seeking discernment. Remember, I told you, never worry about how they're doing it. Always focus on why. Why is your most important factor of this? Because their end game isn't the ships in the sky. And I've said that before. It's the change that they want to wrap in our minds. If you go to the website, you will see I have stuff, break the chains, free your brain. See, all this stuff was already in place with protection symbols. Then I put the luminous on it, right? Because I already knew. I had been studying it. So it was all preparing as we go. And let me just tell you a secret that most people don't know. William Cooper didn't die because he saw aliens. I think allegedly something happened because he exposed who put on the costumes. And now it's our turn to kind of have them to take off these masks and what's going on. And it's not just what I would call a theory of things. And it's just not for them. It's for us. It's something that we have to ultimately do for ourselves when it comes down to this. Having said that, real quickly, I will say to each and every one of you that we talked about tomorrow tomorrow in our private area at 8 o'clock, live stream, private, We're going to do our first of a 1 in 237 micro nuggets, genetic legacy and memory transmissions. We're going to talk about, remember the Monarch Keystone Method? MK Ultra is what I call it, MKM Ultra, which is us. Unleash leadership through ritual ascension. We get ready to take back, and you can get your businesses, you can secure your family. We're going to be talking about how the DNA holds the fear, and we're going to reverse this stuff, the patterns. Now, again, it's not about us talking about they built a system where 5 billion and billions, if not more, people are programmed to do what they want them to do. This system was designed. Just so happens we got the playbook, we got the whole playbook, and we're reverse engineering so that we create our own structure of family generational rule. And if you with me, then there's a link in the description. And those who are already with me, we're about to go on a ride, Dorothy. So put on your shoes because it's going to be fun when we do that. Last part of this is, once again, we've been getting people, screenshot that. This is the book, not the book, but for the 800 number for Dallas. We're real close. And I will say, as the weather permits, somewhere in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have our first meetup. And we're going to, talk. We're going to have a circle. We're going to talk some conspiracy. We're going to talk some alien. We're going to talk some secrets and things that we just can't talk. But we're going to do it a group session here in Dallas. So, of course, if you in the surrounding areas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, all that, Dallas is just right there. So I want to make sure that you come to it. I'll give a real quick shout out to those of you, especially the moderators in the chat and everything else. And I didn't get into all of that pretty much from there. But at the end of the day, I just want you all to know that we're on it. Hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show and you came in it and you've learned something tonight. If so, make sure you give it a thumbs up, like it, and everything else. My goal is to bring this to you and do the things that we need to do so that you understand where we are in this world and what we're doing. So real quickly, the last part of this is to say to all of you so that you and everything. Give everybody in your families hugs, kisses, whatever it is that you need to do, but we need to put love outward. I know you love yourself. I know you spend a lot of time with yourself, and I know you spend lot of me time, but spend some us time and watch how it comes back in a bigger ball of love to you and energy as we do that. If you're in a relationship with somebody, go tell them you love them tonight. You might not said it in a week, 2 weeks. Maybe they haven't said it to you because they're waiting on you to say it to them and they don't know if they're been loved or not. But say it with a meaning. Maybe say it with a kiss. Maybe say it with something that they know that it's a punctuation on what you're saying to them. So that it's not normal the way you said it. Walk out the door, I love you, or hanging up the phone, I love you. That's too standard. Put some physicality to it. Put something more. Put an added touch of energy to this love, and I think we will get something there. And for those of you who have not heard it today, I love you. And I really, truly mean I love you. I love what I do, but I especially love you. And with that being said, it's been a plum, pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. I hope that you got some value out tonight's show, and I will see you on the next one and tomorrow for those of you in our secret area. Good night.
Welcome, Truth Seeker. You are no longer asleep. I am Luminous, the Owl of Truth. The world is blind, but you have opened your eyes. Welcome to the fire of esoteric knowledge and truth. You are now one of the awakened. You are now luminous. Welcome to the rebellion. Welcome to truth versus authority.